Ethan Cole sat in his room on the morning of his wedding, staring at the suit laid out on the chair. Yes. It looked perfect and elegant, but it felt heavy to him, as if it carried the weight of a life he never chose. He knew this day would come because his family had been discussing the arranged marriage for months. They said it would save their business, protect their reputation, and keep everything stable. Ethan understood all of it, but he did not feel ready. He felt like someone walking into a life that did not belong to him. He was 28 and had spent most of his years following rules and doing what everyone expected. His father trusted him to handle difficult situations, while his mother believed he always made responsible choices. Ethan had never complained. He'd always done what seemed right, even when it cost him his own comfort. Love had never been a priority. He had dated in the past, but none of those connections lasted long. Every relationship slipped away because Ethan never let himself open his heart. He always told himself that love was unpredictable and dangerous. It could distract him from his goals or leave him broken. It was easier to stay distant. When his parents told him they had arranged a marriage, he did not argue, simply nodded and accepted the plan. The bride was named Lily Hart. He had never met her or spoken to her. All he knew was that her family had also agreed for business reasons. It was a match created by two families, not by two hearts. Ethan imagined a stiff and uncomfortable wedding. A lifetime of polite conversations and dull dinners, and a partner who barely knew him. He told himself he would manage. As he dressed, Ethan paused in front of the mirror. His dark hair was neatly styled, and his suit fit him well. He looked like a confident groom, but he felt hollow. His eyes gave away the truth. They showed a man walking toward something he did not understand. He took a slow breath and reminded himself that everything was already arranged and there was no turning back. When he arrived at the wedding hall, the large room looked beautiful, with soft blue lights hanging above and flowers arranged around the aisle. Guests spoke quietly as they took their seats. Some smiled at him. Others whispered among themselves. Ethan tried to stay calm. He kept telling himself that after this day, life would settle into a steady routine. He would learn to live with Lily, respect her, and fulfill his responsibilities. Maybe that was enough. Not everyone found love. Some people lived fine without it. He stood near the front and waited. His hands stayed at his sides, but his heart beat harder than usual. He wondered what Lily looked like and whether she felt the same hesitation. He imagined her sitting in another room, adjusting her wedding dress and thinking about the life she was stepping into. He wondered if she also felt trapped by duty, or if she had accepted everything more easily than he had. Then the music began. An older woman near the door signaled that the bride was ready to walk in. Everyone turned toward the entrance. Ethan held his breath without realizing it. The doors opened slowly and Lily appeared. Her face was hidden behind a soft veil, and her white gown glowed under the lights. The lace along her sleeves was delicate, and her small bouquet rested gently in her hands. She walked slowly, one step after another, unsure yet graceful. Ethan watched her approach. He could not see her expression. Did not know if she was nervous or calm. He did not even know if she liked the idea of marrying him. All he saw was a stranger moving closer to becoming his wife. His heart felt tight. He tried to keep his face steady, but inside he wondered if this moment would define the rest of his life. Lily reached the front and stood beside him. She did not look at him at first. Her breathing was soft and careful. Ethan noticed the slight tremble in her fingers as she held her bouquet. For the first time, he felt a spark of curiosity. She was not cold or distant. She seemed fragile and uncertain, just like him. Maybe she had her own fears and doubts. Maybe she was also someone who never asked for this but accepted it for her family. As the ceremony began, Ethan realized that the life he expected might not be as simple as he had imagined. Something about Lily's quiet presence stirred a feeling he had not felt in years. He did not know what it meant, but he sensed that the story of this marriage was not going to be as colorless as he once believed. Lily was more than a stranger. She was the beginning of something he could not yet explain, and for the first time that day, he wondered if this path might hold more than duty. It might hold a future he had never considered before. Ethan stood beside Lily as the ceremony continued, but his mind kept drifting back to the moment her veil shifted while she walked toward him. Even though he could not see her face clearly, something about the way she carried herself stayed with him. She moved with care, as if she feared breaking something. It made him wonder what kind of life she had lived before this day, and why there was such sadness in her quiet steps. He tried to focus on the vows and the voices of the guests, but the questions kept circling in his thoughts. Lily kept her eyes lowered most of the time. Her breath moved softly against the thin fabric of her veil. She felt the weight of the moment pressing against her chest. She had grown up in a family where duty always came before dreams. When her parents told her about the arranged marriage, she did not argue. She tried to be strong, but inside she felt like a bird placed in a cage she did not choose. She told herself it was only a matter of surviving and adjusting. She had never expected anything beyond respect from her husband. Love felt like something far away from her reach. When Lily first saw Ethan standing at the front of the hall, she noticed how calm he looked. He stood tall in his suit, his expression steady and composed. She thought he seemed confident, someone who accepted his role without hesitation. She did not know he felt the same pressure she carried in her heart. As she walked toward him, her fingers tightened around her bouquet. She did not want him to see her fear. She hoped he would not notice the small tremble in her hands. The ceremony came to an end, and the hall filled with soft claps from the guests. Ethan and Lily stood side by side, newly married yet still strangers in many ways. Ethan glanced at her, trying to read her expression through the thin veil. He wondered what she was thinking. He wondered if she regretted this as much as he did. Before he could speak, the families moved closer, and everyone began offering congratulations. The voices blended together. Ethan felt overwhelmed by the attention, but he stayed polite. Lily felt even more nervous when the guests gathered around. She tried to smile, but the veil made her feel hidden and exposed at the same time. She wanted a few moments to breathe, but the crowd was too large and too loud. She wished she could step away for a moment, but she stayed still, holding her bouquet close. Her eyes moved toward Ethan. She noticed that even in the middle of all the people, he looked like someone holding his emotions tightly inside. After a while, the guests began moving toward the reception area. Ethan and Lily were guided toward the garden outside the hall for photographs. The garden was quiet and filled with fresh flowers. The breeze was gentle and carried a soft scent across the path. For the first time that day, they stood without anyone close beside them. The silence gave them a chance to breathe. Ethan finally turned to her. He spoke in a calm voice and asked if she was all right. Lily hesitated and then nodded. She did not trust her voice yet. Her hands were still trembling slightly. Ethan noticed it and felt something shift inside him. She was fragile in a way he had not expected. She was not cold or distant as he had imagined. She was human and afraid, just like him. For a moment he wanted to tell her that she did not need to pretend with him, but he did not know how to say it without sounding strange. The photographer called them forward. Lily lifted her veil slightly so she could see better. Ethan caught a brief glimpse of her eyes. They were soft and filled with quiet sadness. The sight of them made his chest tighten. He had prepared himself for a marriage without emotion, but now he felt something stirring inside him. It confused him. He had not come here expecting to feel anything real. When the photographs were done, Ethan and Lily walked slowly back toward the reception area. The path was lit with warm lights, and the sound of soft music floated through the air. Neither of them spoke. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It felt like a small bridge forming, fragile but present. Ethan knew they were only at the beginning. He had no idea what their life together would become. But something had changed already. Something small and unexpected, like the first spark of a fire that had not yet found its full flame. Lily felt it too. She did not understand it, but she sensed that Ethan was not as distant as she first believed. There was a gentleness hidden beneath his calm exterior. For the first time since the morning, she felt a little less alone, when she walked beside him with slow steps, wondering if this marriage might become something different from what she feared. She did not dare hope for too much yet, but a small part of her heart began to open, just enough to let in the possibility of something new. Ethan and Lily entered the reception hall together, walking side by side while guests clapped and cheered. The hall was bright and warm, filled with soft lights and tables covered in white cloth. People were talking, laughing, and enjoying the celebration. Ethan felt the noise around him, but most of his thoughts stayed on Lily, who walked with slow and careful steps. Her veil still covered her face lightly, giving her a gentle and distant look. He wondered if she felt overwhelmed. He knew he did. A waiter guided them to a small table near the front. The table was decorated with fresh flowers, and 2 plates of food were already set out for them. Ethan pulled out a chair for Lily, and she quietly thanked him before sitting down. He took his seat beside her, unsure how to start a conversation. He wanted to say something that would make her feel more comfortable, but the words felt trapped somewhere inside him. Lily kept her hands folded in her lap. She looked around at the guests who were talking and smiling. She felt like she was in the middle of a dream she did not understand. Everything moved too fast. The vows, the photographs, and the crowd made her heart feel heavy. She tried to breathe slowly so she would not panic. She knew she had to act calm. Her family expected her to be strong. He believed she was ready for this. He did not know how afraid she truly was. Ethan finally asked her if she wanted water. It was a simple question, but Lily felt a small sense of relief. Someone cared enough to notice her discomfort. She nodded and whispered yes. Ethan stood and walked to a nearby table to get her a glass. When he returned, he placed it in front of her with a gentle smile. She lifted her veil slightly and took a sip. Her hands trembled, but the cool water helped her relax a little. For a while they sat in silence. The music played softly in the background, and people continued to talk. Ethan glanced at Lily again. He wanted to understand her. He wanted to know if she felt the same pressure he carried. He noticed how carefully she sat, how she held herself as if afraid to make a mistake. He wondered if she thought he was judging her, wished he could tell her he was not. Lily felt his gaze and slowly looked his way. Their eyes met for the first time without the veil blocking her view. Ethan saw the sadness in her eyes again. It was clear and honest. She looked away quickly, as if afraid he might see too much. The moment was brief, but something inside Ethan shifted. He felt a pull toward her, not because she was beautiful, but because her eyes showed a truth he understood. As the evening went on, their families encouraged them to move around the room and greet the guests. Ethan offered his hand lightly, giving Lily the choice to take it or not. She hesitated, then placed her fingers in his. Her hand was small and soft. They walked together, moving from table to table. People congratulated them, asked about their future plans, and offered polite compliments. Lily tried to smile, but her voice stayed quiet. Ethan answered most of the questions. He noticed that Lily stayed close beside him, almost as if she depended on his presence to keep her steady. He felt a sense of responsibility he had not expected. He wanted to protect her from anything that made her uncomfortable. He was surprised by how natural that feeling was. When they reached a quiet corner of the hall, Ethan finally spoke again. He told her she did not need to pretend to be happy if she was not. His voice was calm and sincere. Lily looked at him with wide eyes, unsure how to respond. No one had spoken to her like that today. She felt a small ache in her chest, not of sadness, but of relief. She told him softly that she was trying her best. She admitted she was scared. Her voice was low and shaky, but honest. Ethan listened carefully. He felt grateful that she trusted him enough to say the truth. He told her he understood. He said he was scared too, even if he did not show it. Lily studied his face, searching for signs of sincerity. She found no harshness or coldness, only quiet honesty. For the first time, she felt a tiny spark of comfort. Ethan was not the stranger she feared he was. He was someone who shared her worries. She felt a little less alone. Their moment of honesty stayed with them for the rest of the night. They returned to the center of the hall, but something had changed. The distance between them felt smaller. The silence felt gentle instead of cold. Ethan walked beside her with more ease, and Lily followed with more trust. By the time the evening ended, Ethan knew one thing. The marriage that started with fear and uncertainty was beginning to shift into something softer. Lily sensed it too. She did not know what the future held, but for the first time she felt a small hope growing inside her. It was faint, but real. A quiet beginning she had not expected. Ethan and Lily left the reception hall once the final guests had said their goodbyes. The night outside was calm and clear, with a gentle wind moving through the trees around the venue. The soft lights placed along the path guided their steps as they walked toward the garden area where they could finally take a break from the noise. It was the first quiet moment they had since the ceremony ended, and both of them welcomed it. Lily held the edge of her gown with one hand so it would not drag along the ground. She walked slowly, still trying to understand the emotions inside her. The evening had been both tiring and confusing. She had expected the day to be cold and heavy, yet something about Ethan made her feel less isolated. She felt unsure about him, but she could not deny that he had been kind when she needed kindness most. Ethan walked beside her with careful steps, kept his hands at his sides, giving her space while staying close enough to offer help if she needed it. He had watched her during the reception. Every small sign of her discomfort had stayed in his mind, and he wanted to understand her better. He sensed she was holding something inside, something she was afraid to reveal. He hoped she would trust him soon. They reached a quiet bench near a fountain. The water moved softly and created a peaceful sound. Lily sat down and let out a slow breath. Ethan sat beside her but left enough distance so she would not feel pressured. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt gentle and allowed them both to breathe easily. Lily kept her gaze on the water as she gathered her thoughts. Ethan watched her for a moment, wondering if she felt safe enough to talk to him. He had seen her struggle throughout the day. He wanted to help her but did not know how to reach her without making her uncomfortable. He cleared his throat softly and asked if she needed anything. Lily hesitated before she answered. She said she was fine, but Ethan could hear the strain in her voice. He asked her if she wanted to rest before they returned inside. This time she shook her head. She said she needed a moment to think. Her voice was soft and careful. Ethan nodded and waited, letting her decide what to share. After a long pause, Lily finally spoke. She told him she had been afraid for weeks. She said she did not know how to enter a marriage where she felt like a stranger. She explained that her family had been under pressure, and she had agreed to the marriage because she wanted to protect them. Hush. As she spoke, her voice wavered, but she kept going because she needed him to understand. Ethan listened to every word. He did not interrupt. He felt a deep ache in his chest as he realized how much she had carried alone. When she finished speaking, he told her he understood, said he had felt the same way when his family told him about the arrangement. He told her he had feared living in a marriage built on duty instead of connection. He said he had accepted it because he wanted to help his family as well. Lily turned to look at him fully for the first time that evening. She searched his face for any sign of judgment or disappointment. Instead, she found understanding. Ethan's expression was calm and sincere. He was not pretending to be strong or distant. He was simply being honest. She felt a small wave of relief wash over her. For the first time that day, she did not feel alone in her fears. She realized that Ethan had been carrying his own burdens. She was surprised by how gentle his voice sounded when he shared his thoughts. He did not speak to her like someone performing a duty. He spoke like someone reaching out. Ethan told her she did not need to rush anything, said they could take their time learning about each other. He wanted her to feel safe. He wanted her to see him as someone she could trust. He admitted that he did not want their marriage to feel forced. He hoped they could build something real, even if it took time. Lily felt her heart soften. She had expected coldness from him. She had expected silence and distance. Yet here he was speaking with kindness and patience. She realized he was different from the image she had formed in her mind. He was trying. He was willing to understand her. She lowered her gaze and whispered that she wanted the same. She wanted to believe their marriage could become more than an arrangement. She wanted to try even if she was scared. Ethan smiled at her gently. It was a small smile, but warm enough to ease her worries. They sat together in the quiet garden, the tension between them fading slowly. The night air felt softer. The world seemed calmer. They were still strangers in many ways, but something important had changed. A small bond had formed. A fragile beginning had started to take shape. Lily no longer felt trapped. Ethan no longer felt alone. For the first time, both of them sensed that the path ahead might hold something hopeful. Ethan and Lily stepped away from the garden when the cool night air became stronger. The staff guided them to a quiet room inside the venue where they could wait until the car arrived to take them home. The room was softly lit with warm lamps placed along the walls. There were comfortable chairs, a small table with water, and a gentle calmness that allowed them to breathe easily after the long day. Lily walked toward the window and looked outside. The moon hung low in the sky, and the soft lights from the pathway glowed against the dark ground. She pressed her hands together, feeling both nervous and hopeful. The talk she had with Ethan in the garden stayed fresh in her mind. She had not expected him to be that open with her. She had not expected him to listen with such patience. She felt something new growing inside her, something she did not want to ignore. Ethan watched her from behind. He noticed the calm in her shoulders, something he had not seen earlier in the day. A small part of him felt proud that he had helped her feel less alone. He wanted to keep that feeling alive. He wanted her to feel safe around him, not because they were married, but because he cared. He took a step closer, still giving her space. He asked her if she wanted to sit down. Lily turned and nodded. They sat in 2 chairs, placed close together. The room was silent, except for the faint sound of music coming from the hall. Ethan rested his hands on his knees and looked toward her. He wanted to speak, but wanted to choose his words with care. He told her he did not expect their marriage to feel so heavy at first. He admitted that he had feared the day for weeks. He said he had imagined a future without warmth or understanding. His voice was steady, but honest. Lily listened closely. She felt comfort in the gentle truth of his words. She told him she had felt the same fear. She said she was worried they would never understand each other. She said she had thought he would remain distant and cold. But after spending time together that day, she began to see him differently. She told him she believed they could build something better between them. Ethan felt a quiet warmth spread through his chest. Her words meant more to him than he expected. He leaned slightly closer and said he wanted to try his best to make their marriage a life they could both be proud of. Said he wanted to learn about her, not as a duty, but as a choice. Lily felt her heart tighten gently at those words. No one had spoken to her like that before. The car arrived soon after, and they left the room together. The night breeze met them as they stepped outside. The driver opened the door for them, and they sat in the back seat. The ride was calm, and the city lights passed by their window. Lily rested her hands on her lap while Ethan sat beside her in quiet thought. As the car moved forward, Lily felt safe for the first time that day. Her fear had not gone completely, but it no longer controlled her. She looked at Ethan and noticed how relaxed he looked now that they were alone. She felt her heart open a little more. When they arrived at Ethan's family home, the place was quiet. The house looked large and inviting with warm lights glowing through the windows. Ethan helped Lily down from the car. She felt a soft sense of comfort knowing she would not walk into that house alone. Ethan walked beside her, matching her pace. Inside the house, the air felt peaceful. Ethan showed her the main living area and the guest rooms. He spoke gently, making sure she felt comfortable. She appreciated every kind gesture. When he showed her the room prepared for her, she felt touched by how carefully everything was arranged. A soft blanket lay on the bed, and fresh flowers sat on the table. Ethan told her she could rest, and that he would be nearby if she needed anything. She thanked him with a soft voice. Before he turned to leave, he paused for a moment. He looked at her with a calm expression that held something warm and sincere. He said he was glad she walked through the day with him. Lily felt her cheeks warm. She thanked him again and watched as he stepped out of the room. When she closed the door, she let out a slow breath. Her heart felt lighter than it had in weeks. She knew the road ahead would not be perfect, but she also knew she would not walk it alone. In another room, Ethan sat on the edge of his bed. He felt a quiet peace settle in his chest. The day had begun with fear and pressure, yet it ended with hope. Lily was no longer a stranger in his life. She was someone he wanted to understand, someone he wanted to protect, and someone he hoped would one day trust him completely. As they settled into their new home that night, both Ethan and Lily sensed a new beginning. Their marriage had started with uncertainty but was slowly shaping into something gentle and real. The fear that once surrounded them had faded, and a small but steady bond had started to form. It was the start of a story they would build together, step by step, with patience and quiet strength.